The fluorescent buzz of the locker room hummed like a swarm of angry bees as I shoved my pads into my duffel. The metallic clang of lockers slamming shut a grim soundtrack to my unraveling world. Hector Lopez, my best friend since we were kids kicking a deflated soccer ball in the cracked lots of East Cleveland, leaned against the bench, his dark eyes flicking away from mine like he couldn't bear the weight. "Jamie, man, I didn't mean for it to go down like this," he muttered, voice thick with something that sounded like regret, but felt like acid. We'd grown up together, him with his quick laugh and quicker fists, me with the arm that could thread a needle through a defense from 50 yards out. Hector was the one who'd dragged me to every tryout, who'd covered for me when I'd sneak glances at the guys in the showers, pretending it was just locker room curiosity. But last week, after that brutal scrimmage against Central, he'd cornered me in the back of his beat-up Chevy, the engine ticking cool under the sodium lamps of the parking lot. "You gotta tell Coach Jay," he'd said, his breath fogging the window. "It's eating you up. I see it." I'd frozen, heart slamming like a piston, because Hector knew. Had known since sophomore year when he caught me staring too long at Tyler's tattooed back. We'd never spoken of it outright. It was our pact, sealed in the silence of shared secrets. But that night, desperation cracked me open. "It's Paul," I'd whispered, the name tasting like forbidden fruit. Paul Whitaker, the new transfer from Seattle, with his easy grin and California surfer hair that fell just right over those piercing blue eyes. He joined mid-season, a wide receiver with moves like liquid lightning, and from the first snap, something in me stirred. A pull I'd fought since puberty hit like a freight train. Hector's face had twisted then, not in disgust, but in something sharper, like envy wrapped in barbed wire. "Paul? That pretty boy? Come on, Jay, you're better than that." I'd laughed it off, but the seed was planted. And now, as the team filtered out, avoiding my gaze like I carried the plague, Hector's words hung heavy. Coach Harlan, big, barrel-chested Harlan with the buzz cut and the temper that could curdle milk, had pulled me aside after practice, his face purple as a bruise. "Lopez spilled it, kid. Said you were distracted by one of the boys." The betrayal burned hotter than the shame, because Hector hadn't just told. He'd twisted it into something dirty, something that threatened the team's family values. I zipped the bag with a violence that made my knuckles white, slinging it over my shoulder. The drive home was a blur of wipers slapping against the relentless Ohio rain. My mom's old Honda protesting every pothole on Superior Avenue. Mom was waiting in the kitchen, her nurse's scrubs still on, smelling of antiseptic and worry. Dad had split years ago, leaving her to juggle double shifts and my dreams of a scholarship that could yank us out of this cycle of payday loans and eviction notices. "Jamie? Baby, what happened?" Her voice cracked as I dropped the bag, the thud echoing like a final play. I sank into a chair, the Formica table cool under my palms. "Coach cut me. For good." The words tasted like ash. She crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling me into a hug that smelled of lavender soap and quiet strength. "Why, Mijo? You were the star, the one they called the ghost, for how you vanished past those lines." I pulled back, meeting her dark eyes, mirrors of my own. This was it, the moment I dreaded since I first understood why the girls at school made my stomach knot with pity instead of butterflies. "Mom, I'm gay." The confession hung there, fragile as spun glass, and for a heartbeat, I braced for the shatter. But she just cupped my face, thumbs brushing away the tears I hadn't realized were falling. "Oh, Jamie, I've known since you were 12, singing show tunes in the shower." A watery laugh escaped her, and relief flooded me like cool water on a fever. We talked until the rain eased to a drizzle. About Dad's absence. About the whispers in our Latino neighborhood where machismo was currency. About how love didn't come with a playbook. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars on my ceiling, remnants of a childhood unscarred, I texted Paul on a whim. "Hey, Whitaker, you up? Rough night." His reply buzzed back almost instantly. "Always for you, ghost. Bill." Paul lived in a different world. His folks were professors at Case Western, the kind of people who vacationed in Europe instead of the lake. We'd bonded over late-night film sessions in the AV room, dissecting plays while the rest of the team chugged beers in some basement. He had this way of leaning in, elbow brushing mine, that sent sparks up my arm I chalked up to static. Coach knows about me. Kicked me off. I hit send before cowardice could intervene. The 3 dots danced for an eternity. Then, fuck that. Meet me at the field house. Now, the field house was a squat brick bunker behind the school, lit only by emergency floods that painted everything in harsh orange. Paul was there, hood up against the chill, tossing a football idly from hand to hand. Seeing him, tall, lean, with that effortless grace, made my chest ache in ways I'd only read about in dog-eared paperbacks smuggled from the library. "Jamie," he said, voice low, pulling me into a hug that lingered a beat too long. "I'm sorry. Harlan's a dinosaur. But you're not done. Not by a long shot." We sat on the damp bleachers, the ball forgotten between us, and I spilled it all, the fear, the isolation, the way Hector's eyes had darkened when I mentioned Paul's name. He listened, really listened, his hand finding mine in the shadows, thumb tracing circles that grounded me. "You're out, yeah? That's brave as hell. And for what it's worth, I've been waiting for you to see me back." His words were a lifeline, pulling me from the undertow. When our lips met, tentative, tasting of rain and possibility, it wasn't fireworks. It was a quiet ignition, warm and real. But dawn brought the cold slap of reality. School was a minefield. Stairs in the halls, graffiti scrawled on my locker, Ferry QB, and Hector waiting by my car after last period, his jaw set like he was gearing up for a fight.
J. Listen.
Coach cornered me, said if I didn't tell him what was off with you, we'd both ride pine. I had to sell me out. I snapped, keys biting into my palm. "You knew what this meant. To me. To us." Hector's face crumpled, the tough kid facade cracking. "You're my brother, man," I thought, protecting the team, protecting you from yourself. It was the kind of lie people tell to sleep at night, but it cut deeper than any coach's boot. That weekend, Mom dragged me to a community center in Cleveland Heights, a rainbow flag haven called Prism House where queer kids swapped stories over bad coffee. It was there I met Elena, a trans activist with a laugh like thunder, who slid me a flyer for a queer youth sports league. Football? Nah, but they've got rugby. And scouts from Ohio State sniff around. The idea sparked me on a field again, not as the ghost haunting my own life, but as something new. Paul showed up to my first practice, uninvited, in cleats and a grin. "Thought you could ghost without me?" We ran drills until our lungs burned, his encouragement a steady drumbeat. Afterward, in the parking lot, he kissed me properly, fierce, unapologetic, under the watchful eyes of strangers who didn't care. For the first time I felt seen not as the star or the scandal but as Jamie. Yet Hector haunted the edges. He texted apologies that went unread, showed up at games with that kicked puppy look. Part of me wanted to forgive the kid who'd shared his last hot pocket during lean times, but trust is a muscle that atrophies fast. As winter bit into spring, whispers of college scouts reached even Elmwood. Paul and I dreamed aloud on stolen afternoons by Lake Erie, winds whipping our words into promises. "Ohio State," he'd say. "You and me, tearing it up." But Harlan's shadow loomed. He'd blackballed me to every recruiter within 50 miles. His influence a chokehold on my future. Then came the call that changed everything. A gravelly voice from an arbor. "Mr. Ramirez? This is Coach Riley from Michigan. Heard about your situation. We don't give a damn about off-field noise. You game. Michigan." The word alone conjured images of big house glory, of maize and blue banners waving under crisp autumn skies, a far cry from the gray grind of Cleveland. Coach Riley's offer wasn't just a lifeline. It was a roar from the depths, pulling me toward a horizon I'd only glimpsed in fever dreams. Paul hooped when I told him, tackling me onto the couch in his family's sunroom, the crash of bookshelves echoing our joy. "Wolverines, baby, you're gonna own that field." His excitement was infectious, but beneath it simmered my fear, the what-ifs clawing at the edges. What if Michigan was a trap, another locker room rife with sideways glances? What if I wasn't ready to leave Mom, or Paul, or the fragile piece I'd stitched from the ruins. Hector found out through the grapevine, of course. He cornered me after school. Rain-slick pavement steaming under our feet. Michigan? That's huge, Jay. You deserve it. His voice was small, stripped of bravado, and for a split second, I saw the boy who'd taught me to throw a spiral with a taped-up ball. Why'd you do it, Hector? Really? He scuffed his sneaker against a manhole cover, eyes down. Coach, he said stuff about how teams fall apart if there's weakness. And I was scared, okay? Scared you'd pick Paul over me. Over us. The admission hung there raw as an open wound. Jealousy, not malice. It didn't excuse the knife in my back, but it humanized the hand that wielded it. I walked away without absolution, the weight of forgiveness too heavy for my shoulders. Spring training with the Queer League became my sanctuary. Rugby, with its brutal poetry of scrums and sprints, where bodies collided without judgment. Paul joined too, his athleticism translating seamlessly, though he grumbled about the lack of shoulder pads. We'd collapse after sessions, grass-stained and grinning, sharing Gatorade and glances that promised more. Our romance unfolded in quiet rebellions. Picnics by the Cuyahoga River, where he'd sketch plays on napkins while I traced the freckles on his knuckles. Midnight drives to empty lots, windows down, blasting Springsteen as if Bruce himself understood the ache of hidden hearts. Mom watched it all with a mother's quiet pride, though her eyes misted when she packed my bags for the Michigan visit. Call every night, Mijo. And remember, you're not running away. You're running toward. The Amtrak 2 in Arbor was a 7-hour blur of rusting factories giving way to emerald fields. My reflection in the window a ghost of nerves. Coach Riley met me at the station. A wiry Irishman with a handshake like iron and eyes that missed nothing. Ramirez. Heard Harlan's got a mouth bigger than his playbook. Let's see if your arm matches the hype. The campus was a revelation. Quads alive with laughter. The scent of fresh-cut grass mingling with coffee from co-ops where kids debated philosophy over lattes. Riley's office overlooked the practice fields. Walls papered with photos of legends. Tom Brady's rookie card framed like scripture. We talked football first, dissecting my Elmwood tapes where I'd evaded sacks like a shadow. Then, casual as a sideline chat, he leaned back. And the other stuff? We don't pry here. But if you need resources, counseling, allies, doors open. No piti, no prove. Just space. It undid me, tears pricking as I nodded, the knot in my chest loosening for the first time since the rain-soaked ejection. I crashed with a teammate recruit, a linebacker named Kai from Detroit with a fade and a foul mouth. He grilled me over pizza. So, Harlan's a homophobe? Classic. My uncle's the same. Thinks rainbows are a liberal plot. Kai's easy acceptance was Michigan in microcosm. Diverse, unpretentious, a melting pot where queer flags flew beside Wolverine banners. That night, I FaceTimed Paul, the screen glowing in the dorm's dim light. It's real, I whispered. They want me, for real. His smile lit the pixels. Knew it. Now get back here so I can kiss you stupid. But homecomings are rarely clean. Elmwood buzzed with my scandalous scholarship. Harlan had spun it as a pity pick, poison seeping into every water cooler chat. At the grocery store, old-timers muttered about agenda kids ruining sports. Hector waited on my porch, a six-pack in hand like an olive branch. We cracked cans on the steps, the fizz mirroring the tension. Proud of you, Ghost, he said, clinking mine. Even if I fucked it up. The beer was bitter, but his sincerity cut through. You did, but maybe we rebuild. Slow. It wasn't full pardon, but it was a truce, fragile as new grass. Summer scorched in, practices ramping up. Paul and I stole weekends at Cedar Point, roller coasters mirroring the highs and drops of us. His hand in mine on the midway, unashamed under the Ferris wheel's glow. After graduation, he murmured one night, head on my chest as waves lapped the lakeshore. I follow you, wherever. His words wove dreams. Shared apartments in Ann Arbor, tailgates with friends who high-fived instead of hissed. But cracks spiderwebbed in. Paul's parents, liberal on paper, Tensed when he mentioned my boyfriend over dinner. College is for experimenting, son, his dad said lightly, but the subtext stung. Not for forever. Hector, too, frayed the edges. He tried, showing up to rugby games, cheering louder than anyone, but old habits die hard. One night, after a league win, he pulled me aside, buzzed on cheap tequila. Paul's cool, but, you sure? Guy's got that trust fund vibe. What if he bails when it gets real? Doubt, insidious as fog, settled in my gut. Was Paul in it for the thrill, the rebellion? Or was this the start of something etched in stone? August brought the storm. Michigan's freshman camp invite arrived. A thick envelope fat with promise. I flew out solo, mom's goodbye kiss lingering like talisman. An arbor in summer was a fever dream. Cicadas droning, air thick with possibility. Riley threw me into drills with vets, my throws slicing the heat like butter. Teammates nodded approval. One, a tight end named Marcus, clapped my back post-scrimmage. Heard your story. Respect. Harlan's loss is our gain. Off-field, I wandered the diagram, street performers juggling under oaks older than the revolution. That's where I met Theo, a grad student activist with posters for a queer athletes panel. Join us, he urged. Your voice, its power. The event was in a cozy auditorium, packed with faces like mine. Out and proud, scars turned to stories. I spoke haltingly at first, about the mud, the betrayal, the kiss that saved me. Then the words flowed, cathartic as confession. Applause thundered, but it was Paul's text that grounded me. Watched the stream. You're a fucking hero. Love you. Love. There it was, unadorned. Back in Ohio, we celebrated with a bonfire on the beach, Hector tagging along awkwardly, roasting marshmallows like we were kids again. Flames danced in Paul's eyes as he pulled me close. Marry me someday? He whispered, half joking. I laughed, heart full. Only if you learn to throw left-handed. But Harlan wasn't done. A week before official signing, he called Mom's landline, voice oily with false concern. Tell the boy it's a fluke. Big Ten eats dreamers alive. She hung up, but the poison lingered. Then, the real blow. Hector confessed over burgers, face ashen. Coach paid me off. $2,000 to keep quiet about. Other stuff. But I didn't take it. Told him to shove it. Betrayals echo, but this time, loyalty's proof. We hugged it out, brothers reforged in fire. Signing day dawned crisp. Reporters swarming Elmwood's gym. Flashbulbs popped as I inked the maize cap. Paul's hands steady under the table. Hector stood sentinel by the door, grin wide. For a moment, the world aligned. No ghosts, just gridiron ahead. Yet as confetti rained, a shadow flickered. Paul's phone buzzed incessantly, his face paling. Dad's cutting funds unless I reconsider paths. The dream trembled, but I squeezed his hand. We fight for it. Together. Fall foliage turned an arbor into a postcard of crimson and gold. But the Michigan air bit with the promise of battles ahead. I'd arrived in late August, duffel slung over one shoulder, Mom's tamales tucked in Tupperware like armor against homesickness. Campus thrummed with freshman frenzy, dorm pranks echoing down halls, the faint strum of guitars from open windows. But for me, it was the weight room's clang and the turf's give that felt like home. Riley slotted me as third-string QB, a redshirt year to bulk up and learn the Wolverine way. But every snap in practice felt like vindication. My arm a cannon silencing doubters. Paul's deferral hit like a blindside blitz. His parents, in a fit of concern, yanked funding for his gap year plans, pressuring him toward an Ivy safety net instead of chasing football dreams at a mid-tier Ohio school. It's practical, Jamie, he explained over a crackling call, voice frayed. Not forever, just till I prove myself. The distance yawned between us. Him in Cleveland cramming for community college entrance, me navigating maize blue chaos. Our visits were stolen weekends. Him hitching rides, us holing up in my single dorm, whispering futures over contraband takeout. But doubt crept in, a slow poison. Hector's warning echoed. What if he bails? Hector, surprisingly, became my anchor. He'd enrolled at a local tech school, majoring in auto mechanics, but weekends found him tailgating Michigan games, his rusty Chevy a beacon in the RV lots. "Brought the good stuff," he'd say, hoisting a cooler of craft IPAs, our truce deepening into something like before, jokes laced with hard-won wisdom. One crisp October afternoon, post-thrashing of Penn State, we wandered the Arboretum, leaves crunching underfoot. "Paul's solid," Hector admitted, tossing a frisbee idly. "But love's a contact sport. Hits hard when you least expect." His own scars showed. A girl from high school who'd ghosted after his coming out as bi, leaving him wary of vulnerability. We swapped stories, the autumn sun slanting gold, and for the first time, I saw Hector not as betrayer, but as survivor. On field, I carved my niche. Redshirting meant scout team reps, feeding the starters looks at my unorthodox footwork. Elmwood scrappiness honed against Big Ten polish. Marcus, the tight end, became a mentor, dragging me to queer mixers where the air hummed with laughter, not leers. "You're the real deal, Ramirez," he'd say, clinking bottles. "Don't let the noise dim your shine." The noise, though, was relentless. Harlan's blackball lingered in message boards. "Queer kid from Ohio? Fluke signing." Local rags dredged my story, twisting romance into tabloid fodder. Paul bore the brunt. His folks freezing his accounts, classmates side-eyeing his distraction. Climax brewed in November, a bi-week storm that dumped 6 inches on campus. Paul drove up unannounced, snow chains rattling, his face gaunt under the dorm lights. "I quit the cramming," he announced, dropping a duffel. "Applied to Michigan's transfers. Fuck practical." We collided in a kiss that tasted of relief and road salt, bodies aligning like a perfect route. That night, tangled in sheets that smelled of his cedar cologne, we mapped it out, him walking on as a receiver, us building a life amid the hurly-burly. But dawn brought the fracture. A voicemail from his dad, voice steel. "You're throwing away stability for a phase? Dissonance on the table, Paul." He played it on speaker, the words a gut punch. Paul's hand trembled in mine. "It's you or them." The ultimatum hung, a noose tightening. I wanted to rage, to drive to Seattle and shatter their illusions. But love isn't a solo carry. It's shared yards. "Fight smart," I urged. "We call their bluff." But fear gnawed. Was I worth the wreckage? Hector sensed the storm when Paul headed back. We met at a dive bar off State Street, neon buzzing "Go Blue" in the window. Over wings and whiskey shots, he laid it bare. "Remember sophomore year? That scout from OSU? Harlan tanked it, 'cause I mouthed off about playing time." Betrayal sequel, Hector's own scar from the coach who'd molded us both in his image, only to discard the flawed. He preys on loyalty, twists it. Drunk on disclosure, Hector confessed deeper. His role in the outing wasn't just pressure. It was a desperate bid to keep me close, to sabotage the spark with Paul before it stole our brotherhood. "I was losing you, Jay." To him. To yourself. Tears streaked his face, and I pulled him into a hug, the bar's jukebox crooning Johnny Cash like a dirge. "Forgiveness isn't erasure. It's reconstruction." "We're good," I said. "But no more ghosts." The bye-week blurred into Thanksgiving. Me at Mom's. Paul mediating a tense family dinner where his coming out landed like a fumbled snap. He texted updates. Mom cried. Dad silent. Progress? I flew home, surprising him with a ring from a campus jeweler. Not diamond, but silver with engraved coordinates of our first kiss. "Promise ring," I said, slipping it on. "For the fights ahead." His eyes shone, and in Mom's cramped kitchen, surrounded by tamale steam and Hector's awkward charm, we toasted to us. Return to and Arbor brought frostlace practices, my reps increasing as the starter nursed a tweak. Riley pulled me aside post-drill. "You're starting the bowl game, kid. Earned it." Elation surged, but so did pressure. The Citrus Bowl against Alabama, national TV, my story scripted in pregame hype. Media swarmed, ESPN's softballs about resilience, Fox's gotchas on divisiveness. Paul, accepted as a spring transfer, arrived mid-December, his presence a steadying force amid the frenzy. Christmas Eve, we escaped to a cabin up north, snow blanketing the Huron shore. Fire crackling, cocoa steaming, we danced slow to holiday jazz. His head on my shoulder, whispers of forever. "You're my Hail Mary," he murmured. But vulnerability breeds tempests. A blizzard trapped us, phones dead, and in the isolation old wounds reopened. What if Michigan chews us up? Paul voiced my unspoken fear. What if I'm not enough? The question cracked us open, leading to a raw midnight talk about his parents' conditional love, my dad's ghost, the betrayals that scarred us both. Dawn found us renewed, snow angels in the yard like signatures on a pact. Bowl week dawned in Orlando, palms swaying incongruous against Michigan chill. Hector flew down, bunking with Kai, his cheers a talisman from the stands. Paul, ineligible but omnipresent, paced sidelines in Wolverine gear, his ring glinting under stadium lights. Kickoff loomed, adrenaline a live wire. In the tunnel, Riley clapped my helmet. "Play your game, Ghost. The rest is noise." The game was apocalypse. Alabama's defense a wall of crimson fury, our O-line crumbling like sandcastles. First half, 3 and outs, my throws sailing into double coverage. Halftime score, 17-0, locker room a tomb. Marcus gripped my pads. "Dig deep, brother." I nodded, but inside, Harlan's voice sneered. Weakness. Third quarter, lightning. A flea flicker to Kai 42 yards. Then me scrambling left, evading a sack, threading a strike to the corner for 6. Crowd erupted, rainbow sections chanting my name. Touchdown. Momentum shifted. We clawed back, Paul's silhouette in the box a beacon. Final drive, down by 3, 150 left. I dropped back, vision tunneling on Paul, no, on the receiver streaking free. Spiral away, caught sideline, first down. Clock ticks. Hike. Blitz. I rolled right, feet alive, launching a moonshot to the end zone. Touchdown as time expired. 24-21. Pandemonium. Post-game, Gatorade shower sticky sweet, reporters mobbed. But I sought Paul, pulling him into the chaos, kiss defiant under floodlights. Hector bear hugged us both, tears mixing with triumph. "You did it, Ghost." Yet victory's afterglow hid thorns. Paul's dad showed, uninvited, in the stands, face thunderous. That night, hotel lobby confrontation. "This ends, Paul, or the inheritance does." Ultimatum redux. Paul stood firm, voice steel. "Then it's ended." Dissoment's blade fell, but in the severing, freedom bloomed. The citrus bowl glow faded into winter's maw, an arbor reclaiming us with ice-slick streets and the grind of second-semester classes. Paul's transfer solidified, spring ball as a walk-on, his routes sharpening under Riley's watchful eye, but the dissonement's echo lingered like frostbite. He crashed with me, our dorm a nest of textbooks and take-out boxes, but nights brought whispers of what-ifs. What if they come around? What if I regret? I'd hold him then, heartbeat to heartbeat, murmuring, "Regrets for the sidelines. We're in the game." Hector's visits became ritual road trips to away games, his Chevy groaning under Wolverine stickers. Over diner hash browns after a Michigan State route, he'd grill Paul good-naturedly. "Think you can keep up with the Ghost?" Paul fired back. "Only if you stop calling him that. He's Jamie now." The ribbing masked deeper bonds. Hector confided in Paul about his own stalled romance. A barista named Rico who'd ghosted after one too many homophobic heckles. "Love's a risk," Hector said one night, stars wheeling over a tailgate fire. "But worth the hit." Paul nodded, glancing at me with eyes that said he'd learned it firsthand. On field, I ascended starter by mid-season, my stats a siren's call to NFL scouts. But fame's double-edged. Endorsements trickled in, a sports drink spot where I ad-libbied about playing true, going viral among queer fans. Backlash followed, Harlan on a Cleveland sports podcast, snarling, "Kids today confuse talent with activism. Ruins the purity." Purity. The word curdled, conjuring his locker room sermons on manhood as armor, not vulnerability. Spring brought renewal. Cherry blossoms dusting the Huron, Paul nailing his first varsity catch in intra-squads. We celebrated with a hike in the Huron Manistee, backpacks heavy with sandwiches, his laughter echoing off pines. At a overlook, wind tousling his hair, he dropped to one knee, jokingly with a wildflower ring. Practice for later? But the glint in his eye was earnest, and my yes was a vow etched in earth. Mom visited in April, her pride a tangible warmth as she toured the big house, snapping photos like a tourist. Your dad would have been proud, she said softly, though his absence was a ghost we rarely summoned. Over empanadas in a campus taqueria, she cornered Paul. Hurt him, and I'll bury you in Ohio clay. He laughed, but her blessing sealed something. Family, chosen and fierce. Yet conflict crested in May, a perfect storm. Harlan, retired but restless, orchestrated a reunion scrimmage for Elmwood alums, inviting Michigan's staff as gesture. Riley declined, but the invite slithered to me via email. Polite venom. Bury the hatchet, son. For the game's sake. I ignored it, but Hector, ever the bridge builder, pushed. Go. Show him you're unbreakable. Paul backed him. Face the dragon, Jamie, or it haunts forever. The scrimmage was a farce muddy field in Cleveland suburbs. Alums bellied from desk jobs. Elmwood kids wide-eyed. Harlan waited pitchside, arms crossed, his buzz-cut grayer but glare undimmed. I arrived with Paul and Hector, the three of us a united front. Ramirez, he grunted, extending a meaty hand. Heard your hot shit now. The shake was perfunctory. His eyes flicked to Paul, disdain flickering. Brought your cheerleader. Rage boiled, but I channeled it. Snapping throws that zipped past defenders like missiles. Crowd murmured approval, old teammates nodding respect. Halftime, Harlan pulled me aside, breath sour with regret or rye. I was wrong, kid, protecting the team. But I lost a son. The apology was half-baked, laced with if-onlys. If I'd stayed closeted, if the world were simpler. It wasn't absolution. It was a man grappling with obsolescence. Too late, I said, voice steady. You taught me football. Paul taught me heart. Post-game, as rain threatened again, Hector mediated a truce. Awkward handshakes, promises of neutral ground. Driving back, Paul squeezed my thigh. You slayed it. But victory soured. Paul's mom called, voice quavering. Your father's had a stroke. Come home, please. The plea cracked his resolve. We packed overnight, Hector lending his car. Cleveland Hospital was a sterile purgatory. Beeps and bleach, Paul's dad pale in the bed, tubes snaking like accusations. Reconciliation unfolded in fragments. Apologies mumbled around Jell-O cups, mom's wisdom via speakerphone. Family's not blood, it's forgiveness. Paul mediated, his strength a quiet force, and by discharge, bridges mended, tentative but real. Proud of you, son. His dad rasped, eyes on the ring. Both of you. Summer internship at a Detroit youth camp grounded us. Coaching inner-city kids in flag football, faces alight with possibility. One boy, shy with a stutter, confided his crush on a classmate. I shared my story, minus the scars. It's okay to be you on the field. Hector joined as assistant, his patience blooming, even flirting harmlessly with a fellow counselor. Evenings, Paul and I coached side by side, our synergy unspoken, his routes mirroring my reads. August heat wave brought the draft buzz. NFL scouts circling like hawks, combine invites glowing in my inbox. Riley pulled me for a talk. You're pro material, Jamie, but remember why you play. The why, not glory, but grace under fire. Paul, earning his spot on the depth chart, echoed it. We're building more than yards. Fall semester roared in, schedule brutal, classes in sports psych, practices till twilight. A rivalry game against Ohio State loomed, Horseshoe Stadium a cauldron of scarlet hate. Pre-game, media frenzy peaked. Profiles on the out QB. My face on S-Ice cover. Rainbow armband subtle but defiant. Backlash spiked. Tweets venomous. A protest at the team hotel with signs decrying gay agenda in sports. Security thickened, but the ugliness seeped. A locker room prank. My jersey doused in pink paint. I confronted the team, huddle tight, voice raw. This shit? It's noise. We're Wolverines. Fierce. Together. Marcus led the applause. Even skeptics nodded. Paul, from the receiver room, slipped me a note. My hero. Kicked their ass. Game night. Columbus Coliseum. 100,000 strong. Buckeye chants a tidal roar. I started hot 300 yards by half, 2 TDs. Paul hauling in a slant for the second. But third quarter. Helmet-to-helmet hit. Stars exploding. Turf meeting my face. Concussion protocol sidelined me. From the box, world muffled, I watched Paul shine. A 60-yard bomb he cradled like destiny. We won 31-24. Post-game embrace on the field electric. Cameras flashing our kiss. A statement in sweat and triumph. Recovery was hell. Headaches pounding like bass drums. Balance a wobble. Paul nursed me with ice packs and bad jokes. Hector shipping care packages of Cleveland junk food. In the haze, doubt resurfaced. Am I whole enough for pro? For us? Therapy sessions peeled layers. Sports psych prof doubling as counselor. Unpacking Harlan's echo, Hector's fracture. Healing's not linear, she said. It's game film. Review, adjust, advance. By winter, I was cleared, scarred but sharper. Paul's family thawed fully. Christmas dinner in Seattle, his dad's toast. To second chances. Mom beamed via Zoom. Hector crashing our New Year's with fireworks over the Huron. But betrayal's final twist lurked. An anonymous leak to Deadspin. Fabricated texts painting Paul as a gold digger chasing my spotlight. Fury ignited. Investigation traced to an Elmwood alum. Harlan's crony nursing grudges. Confrontation via email chain. Harlan implicated peripherally called. Not me, kid. But I vouched for the guy once. Thought it was banter. Banter. The word ignited. I hung up, blocking the number. Paul and I weathered it. Joint statement to the press. Raw and real. Love isn't leverage. It's lift. Support flooded. Glad spotlights. Teammate fundraisers. In the quiet aftermath, we eloped. Not legally, but in a lakeside ceremony. Vows exchanged under Michigan oaks. Hector best man. Mom officiating via proxy. Senior year dawned with the weight of legacy. Heisman whispers. NFL mocks slotting me top 10. Paul's breakout as a slot receiver drawing agent calls of his own. Ann Arbor felt like empire. Sold-out homes, our tandem a highlight reel ballet. My lasers to his glue hands, 80% completion on slants alone. Off-field, we were pillars. Guest spots at Prism House revivals. Youth camps expanding to Detroit proper. Hector, thriving in his shop, drove down monthly. Rico now a fixture. Tall, tattooed, with a smile that thawed Hector's edges. Found my Paul, he'd grin, clapping my shoulder. Yet prosperity bred peril. Spring pro day, velocity clocks, shuttle runs under scout microscopes. I crushed it. 4.640, 50-yard bombs, but a minor ankle tweak from winter lingered. Scouts nitpicking. Durable? In the clutch? Paul aced his two, but whispers of Nepo receiver. His renewed family ties spun as advantage stung. We laughed it off over bubble tea on Southview, but insecurity festered. Am I carrying him? Or vice versa? Climax crested in April, draft eve. A gala in Chicago. Black tie amid lake winds. We walked the carpet. Hands linked. Paul's tux tailored sharp. My nerves a live wire. Inside, schmooze and sparkle. Legends like Elway toasting rookies to be. Harlan appeared unbidden. Invited by a mutual coach. Face florid with false bonhomie. Ramirez. Whitaker. Quite the pair. His handshake lingered. Eyes appraising Paul like chattel. Later, over stakes, he cornered me solo. Proud now? But football's no fairy tale. One bad hit and it's over. For both. The barb landed. That night, hotel suite tense, Paul pacing. He's poison. Why engage? I confessed the churn, fear of fragility, of our love as Achilles' heel. What if he's right? What if I can't protect us? Tears came, rare and racking. Paul knelt, ringed hand on my knee. We protect each other. Always have. Dawn reconciled us. Love-making soft as absolution. Not fire, but hearth. Draft day. Green room in Detroit. Family clustered. Mom in maize pearls. Hector fidgeting. Paul's folks beaming tentative. Tension coiled as picks ticked. First round. QBs flying off boards. My name echoed at 7. Lions, my home state saviors. Elation exploded. Hugs blurred. Paul's kiss salt-sweet with shared dreams. But at 42, Paul's call. Packers, divisional rivals. Irony bit. Thanksgiving bloodbaths now personal. The separation loomed like a chasm. Rookie minicamps split us. Me in Allen Park, him in Green Bay. Text to tether across 300 miles. Miss your routes? I'd type. Miss your arm, he'd reply. Hector mediated, hosting joint barbecues in Cleveland neutral ground. But distance distilled doubts. Tabloids speculating troubled couple. Paul's hazing pranks leaking as bullying. A midsummer call shattered. They're questioning my spot. Say I'm distracted. My flight to Wisconsin was impulse. We holed up in a Lambo-adjacent motel, dissecting film till dawn. Fight through, I urged, echoing Riley. You're gold. Fall forged us in fire. Lions-Packers opener, Ford Field Electric with 65,000. I started arm locked in. Paul, rotational, haunted coverages. Third quarter. My screen to the back, but eyes locked on him across the line. Defiant grin through face mask. We won 27-20. Post-game midfield clasp a media magnet. Rivals on field, partners off. I quipped to mics. Love is lore. Season surged. My 4,000 yards, Paul's 1,210 scores earning rookie nods. Off-season brought crossroads. Paul's contract extension talk stalling. My Lions deal fat but fame-fueled. A February combine afterparty in Indy. Agents swirling, champagne fizzing. Harlan lurked again, drunk on nostalgia. Told you it'd break, he slurred, finger jabbing Paul's chest. Boys riding coattails. Security bounced him, but the seed sprouted. Paul, overhearing, withdrew into shell. Maybe he's right. Maybe I need to prove solo. The fight erupted lakeside retreat. Cabin we'd honeymooned in, now battleground. Solo? We're a team. I roared, waves crashing accusation. He fired back. Your shadow's long, Jamie. I need sun. Betrayal redux, not Hector's blade, but self-doubt's twist. Door slammed. He stormed into night, me pacing embers. Dawn brought reckoning. Paul's note on the pillow needed air. Not goodbye. Love. P. Panic clawed. Calls unanswered. Hector mobilized for search. Hours blurred. Trails hiked. Bars canvassed. Till Paul's truck crested the drive. Face streaked. Drove to the bridge. Thought about jumping. The confession gutted. We collapsed. Sobs sinking. Can't lose you, he gasped. But can't lose me. Therapy followed, joint sessions in Detroit, unpacking codependence, Harlan's hex. Love lifts, the counselor said. Doesn't eclipse. Resolution bloomed slow. Paul restructured with Packers, earning starter reps. I mentored Lions rookies. Hector launching a queer sports nonprofit in Cleveland. Mom its honorary chair. Anniversaries marked milestones. Vows renewed under Huron stars. Rings upgraded simple. Years layered. Super Bowl rings. Lions 28. Packers 30. Bittersweet clash. Retirements in tandem at 35. Coaching stints at Michigan. Hector married Rico in a lakeside bash. Paul and I officiating. Harlan's obituary came quiet. Stroke. Alone. I attended eulogy brief. He taught toughness. We taught grace. Now porch swing in our and Arbor home. Grandkids. Adopted. Ours. Tumbling in yard. Paul's head on my shoulder. Worth every hit, he murmurs. I nod. Sunset gilding the lake. From mud to maize. betrayal to brotherhood. We've run the route. Flawed, fierce, forever. Humanity's the real win. Not yards, but yards given, in forgiveness, in love's unyielding scrimmage.